I am a deep-sea commercial diver, not scuba, but a hard hat diver. Unfortunately, I have had too many terrible and unexplained experiences that give me frequent nightmares, enough to the point I plan on quitting next year and finding something new. I went to a dive school in Jacksonville, Florida that is situated on a river. The water there is very black and nasty. When you dive in it, you literally can't see your hand in front of your face. I've been down there and been bumped into by many things, heard noises, and plenty of other things, so needless to say, diving in unpleasant scenarios doesn't, or I should say didn't, bother me. A couple of years ago we were working off the states offshore. We would be out in the ocean working for a couple of weeks at a time, and then come back and stay in whatever town we were closest to. I joined a local divers search and rescue crew because we would be in one particular city often for extended amounts of time, and I'm also a DMT, diver medic technician, so I was already into helping people. One day while sitting at a bar next to the beach, my pager went off stating that all available divers were needed for an underwater search and rescue/recovery. I gathered all of my scuba gear together, which I only use for those situations, and just for fun diving, not work related, and headed to the scene. Once I arrived on scene, we had a meeting, and the rescue leader informed us of the situation. "Alright, so a local family was on their boat a couple of miles offshore next to that island," he said as he pointed to it. It was a mother, her husband, their 2 sons, and her sister. The father was cooking lunch, while the mother and aunt were laying on the back deck sunbathing. The 2 boys, ages 15 and 12, were swimming next to the boat with some floating noodles and an inner tube attached to the boat so they wouldn't drift apart. The mother said she was lying there talking to her sister, and able to hear the boys playing in the water, when she heard one of the boys, Keith, call out his brother's name, John, in a somewhat playful tone. There was a few moments of silence from the boys, so the mother went to check on them. The mother said that when she made it over to the edge of the boat, she didn't see either of them. She thought they were messing with her as they like to do, but after she didn't hear anything except the sounds of the small waves slapping against the side of the boat, and she didn't see them anywhere, she panicked and told her husband to find them. He dove in and swam under the boat to make sure they weren't hiding, and when he came back up he said that he couldn't find them. Search and rescue was called immediately, and the husband made a couple more dives in an attempt to find them. He surfaced to give his wife an update, and mid-sentence she said he was jerked under and hasn't resurfaced. Now that we were informed of the situation, we loaded everything into the boat and headed out to the scene. On the way there we came up with a safe phrase, which is something you say when you found a body and a family is around, as to not startle the family. We also usually put the body in a bag before reaching the surface with them. Our safe phrase for this dive was, "Charlie isn't talking to me." We get on scene, suit up, and begin our dive. When looking for a body in the ocean, you don't have a very good chance of finding it on the first day. It's usually best to wait a couple of days and the body will begin to float, so it will be easier to find. But you can't tell the family that. You have to at least make an effort to dive and look for them in an attempt to help them. We descend and start doing a grid pattern. The water is unusually dark, and visibility wasn't that good, which I thought was strange, but it was late afternoon and this wasn't the cleanest part of the ocean, and I could see a little bit, so it didn't faze me. As I get near the bottom, around 70 feet because we were near an island, I see a human-shaped figure. I go to swim towards it, and it moves away from me. I get a little bit better look at it, and this is gonna sound funny, but it was almost shaped like a mermaid. As it swims away, I can see other figures just like it emerge from this darkness and swim away. This honestly scared the ever-living shit out of me. I know this wasn't anything known to man by the way they looked. I even have a hard time believing what I saw. I went back up alongside my other divers, but I didn't say anything as we were resting for a minute and deciding whether or not to do another dive because it was almost dark. Also, I had no idea what I just saw, and I didn't want to sound crazy. We decided to make one last quick bounce dive, so we swapped tanks and once again began our descent. As we are making our way towards the bottom, I'm thinking to myself, please, please, please don't let me see those things again. Then I see it, a small body on the bottom. I swim towards it and see it's one of the boys, but he is wedged into a crack of the reef, almost like he was shoved in there. I show the other divers and we go up. When we reach the surface, I say, "Charlie isn't talking to me." The rescue workers get prepared and we get a body bag and go back down. When we get to where we can see the boy, we hear a deafening high pitch, almost like a screaming and screeching sound. All of a sudden, something swims between me and another diver, slightly bumping us. And then, only the sound of our breathing, and now a cloud of soot coming from the bottom engulfs us. Now we really can't see, so we all grab hands and sit for a few seconds as the soot clears. Once the soot is cleared, the little boy's body is gone. We go straight back up as fast as possible and tell everyone false alarm. When we get back to the shore, we tell our rescue leader what we saw and what happened. And this is the scariest part. He said, and I quote, "I was afraid of that." We asked him what he meant, but he never told us. He said that's enough information for now and that we did a good job. Thinking back on this experience, I've tried so many times to rationalize it, but there's no way I can think of. This is one of my stories I haven't told many people for obvious reasons. I wonder sometimes how many people those things have taken with them to a watery grave, never to return. All I know is I do not want to be one, so by next year I'll be done with diving for good. Which is really unfortunate because I truly loved it at one point in my life. But after that, and several other things I've seen, I hate the ocean with a burning passion, and fear it more than that. It was the beginning of the summer of 1974. I was a boy going on 11, just out of the 5th grade who lived in an affluent Southern California beach city. School was out, and my family began our sailboat vacation to the island of Catalina. It was my parents, my older and younger brother, and I. We set sail to the island in our Columbia 36-foot sailboat, and upon arriving, laid anchor in a small sheltered cove to camp for the night. The next morning, my older brother and I asked, and were given permission, to row our dinghy ashore to a small sand and pebble beach about 100 yards away. Upon reaching the shore, we hopped out into the 1-foot deep water and stepped onto the dry land. My brother laid the dinghy's 10-foot rope on the dry shore and weighed it down with a huge stone. Then he proceeded to explore the desolate beach and cliffs. I remember standing in 1-foot deep water near the dinghy, admiring the crystal clear aqua green water, small fish, and aquatic plant life that were all around. As I observed the nearby waters, I noticed the sea bottom undulated in a strange way, about 6 feet away from me offshore to my left. Suddenly, wings flapped and an anomaly transformed into a huge sea creature and swam in front of me. My blood ran cold throughout my entire body. I was paralyzed with terror. The strange creature was bigger than me, more than 5 feet of a wingspan, and more than 5 feet in length. It flapped its huge dark gray wings and swam out into the deep waters of the cove. I backed myself up onto dry land and made a mental note to pay very close attention to where I get in and out of the dinghy from then on. I did not tell my brother what I had seen, and when we got back to our sailboat, I didn't tell my parents either. I was a mischievous boy, and I didn't want to lose rowboat privileges. I'm sure my mom would have freaked out and disallowed my brother and me to ever row to an uninhabited beach anymore. Needless to say, the strange creature turned out to be an adult stingray. I came very close to ending up in the same boat as Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, who was killed by a stingray in 2006. The water was very inviting, and if I had just waded out a little further, and perhaps stepped too near one of its wings. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you would like a chance to have your story featured in an upcoming video, make sure you check the description for information on how to submit your stories. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.